We are the Govbot team. I'm so excited to share what we've been working on with y'all. Y'all may have heard of us presenting in the past as Windy Civvy. This project has gone through a whole bunch of different stages, but we're really excited to show where we're at right now in terms of creating a fun legislative data catalog. So let's get into it. Yeah, so let's do brief introductions. Yeah, I'll standing back up. Like I said, I'm Edwin. I'm a data engineer and designer. And then I will introduce y'all to the fun stuff.
Hello, my name is Tamara Dawes. I'm a backend engineer, and I've been working with Govbot for, I don't know, maybe 9 months, I think. And the reason I'm working with Govbot is because I feel that a lot of times there's legislation going through all the different levels of government, and most people aren't aware of them. And it almost feels intentional how hard it is to get this data. So I want to make the information more accessible to more people so that they hopefully care more and get involved.
Hey, I'm Sartaj. I started this breakout back in 2022 with a simple question. Why is it so hard to track our politicians, especially between elections? What started off as a simple, like, who is my politician, has turned into, after many years, into what we will demonstrate today. This project has kind of become a culmination of all of our different expertise. As we mentioned, Tamara has a strong background in backend engineering with focus on data governance data, like legal data that we're doing. Edwin's a data nerd in general, and I do a lot of AI engineering, and so we've kind of brought this together for this project today.
And thank you for that really clever segue because we can get into our intro. We have a couple slides for that. But yeah, that was sort of the main question, the one that Sarja mentioned. Why don't we pay attention to our representatives between elections? A lot of that is because the data on the legislation is really hard to access. It's hard to sort of have a central database and a really good way to access it, especially with the context of a couple of. We got it again. Yay. Okay. Especially in the context of a couple of solutions being shut down or harder to access in recent years. I've been calling out the Google Civic Information API that got shut down earlier this year. There's a lot of brouhaha over that, but that was a really useful way for people to get like publicly accessible data on like Congress and stuff like that. So that kind of inspired us to sort of think about building a solution that was like more decentralized and not rely on any particular tech stack. Oop, we got it. Yay. So our solution, like I mentioned at the top, was to sort of help build a legislative data catalog and also to build out some use cases and some examples of how people can really use that data in their own way, have that be decentralized, and like I said, not rely on any particular stack. A little more into details on that, but we've proudly been a shy Hack Night breakout group since 2022. And we'll go into the history, but this is a really good combination, I think, of all the different areas of effort. Yeah, so what this data catalog offers, which we'll show you, is legislative updates from the US House and Senate, from all 50 state legislators, and from legislators in US territories like Guam and Puerto Rico. So really fun stuff there. And there's also a couple features. The data catalog is, like I mentioned, decentralized. It regularly updates in an append-only format. There's also AI-powered topic-based tagging and summaries. This is customizable using a YAML file, which we'll show you. But the benefit of this is that you don't have to read the bill text. You'll get a summary of what the bill is proposing, and then you'll have it categorized by topic. So it really is helpful, especially for activists who want to focus on particular topics, to track legislation that way. As well as SQL querying via a DuckDB interface. I saw this and I was really excited. I love SQL. So we'll go into that as well. And like I mentioned, some example applications. It's a very fun website that was built last year that if y'all are following in the Markdown file, y'all can click and visit, as well as a Blue Sky bot that was built in collaboration with a actual US representative in the state of Illinois. So if y'all want to visit that, y'all can too. Oops. Ooh, the screen went away for a second. There we go. So again, if y'all are following in the Markdown file, you can actually install using this one line. And then that'll allow you to clone the entire data set, to clone particular items, or to load metadata into that DuckDB interface. We'll go into a live demo, but if anyone wants to get a head start, now is your chance. But without further ado, let's get into the project history. So we have actually some folks from previous eras in our studio audience today. But the project started as with the concept of trying to aggregate ways to contact your representative. So you can see in the screenshot there are links to a couple different services. There's phone numbers. This info is kind of hard to usually get, especially because, as I've learned, for example, Chicago older people do not actually have to update the websites as frequently as is needed. So some of the information is kind of wrong. So this is a really good, like, I think, inception of like even trying to increase access by trying to parse through that information, right? Then this was built on in terms of instead of having be like a database of contact info, what if it was a social network? So this was the Civic social era, and again, sort of building on the concept of like how do you get people to interact with legislative updates more effectively. Then there was a sort of experimental prototype phase of like thinking like how could this be incorporated hypothetically into a like a platform like My Chicago, which is like a a public tool. So this is where the idea of introducing AI powered bill summaries came in. The realization that actually might be really beneficial to have people not have to read the entire text of a proposal and actually understand what's going on at the top, and topic tagging, adding contextual information, and really just guiding engagement, right? Oops, I can click. Yay. And then the website that I mentioned earlier that you can access via the Markdown file, this was launched in 2024 as both a website and mobile app that had push notifications, topic tracking, and again, those push notifications were personalized. And again, tying stuff back in the beginning, contacting your representatives directly via that contact information that was pulled. So, like I mentioned a little bit, we had to rethink our approach, especially in the context of what happened earlier this year with that Google API and other sort of services closing down. How can sort of a more decentralized approach sort of be beneficial, right? There are a few benefits that are listed on the slide, but we were really thinking about that as we were sort of thinking about the next phase, shifting from with Windy Civic creating a one-stop shop to something that was more accessible to anyone who wanted to use it. So our new vision includes that decentralized legislative data catalog that I've mentioned a few times, reusable frameworks, and some sample applications. So we've gone through all this in a little bit of detail, but we'll go into more detail over the course of the presentation. And our goal is to ensure that government accountability is accessible to everybody. And now we're going to do some fun live demos. So we'll reintroduce Sartosh to the picture. And there you go.
Thank you, Edwin. Yeah. Oh, actually, I want to do something real fun here. One sec. Turn on. There it is. Boom. Feedback mic. Hopefully that doesn't create a feedback. If it does, chat, let me know. So yeah, we're gonna do some live demos and kind of show you how this thing works. So I'm gonna switch over to my terminal. So for those of y'all that want to actually install, maybe what I'll first show you is you can go to. Right now it's called Windy Civi, still because that was our previous name. We're in the process of moving our repo over, but until then, you can find it at windycivi.com/toolkit. There we go. Oh, why did that not autocomplete? Here we go. Cool. And you'll find the one-click install thing that Edwin mentioned right there. You can just copy that into your terminal and use it. I already have it installed on my computer, so I can just kind of show you here. I can type in Govbot and enter, and you can see there's a list of actions, and I'm going to start with what I think is the coolest thing. I can't believe that we did this, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to do Govbot clone all. Oh, got to spell it right. Cool. And as you can see, as we speak right now, it is currently downloading all 50 states and some territories. Guam. I forgot that Guam is an American territory. And the United States federal government also. Yeah, you can see literally right here. It is downloading as we speak. It's downloading pretty fast. Usually it takes about a minute to download everything. So yeah, while that is happening, I can actually show you where this data is coming from, which is we decided to publish these legislation files directly onto GitHub as Git as JSON data catalogs. So we made this thing called this organization. It's called CHN Open States Files right now. We'll explain later why that name is that name. But you can see all the different states and locales and their legislation right here. It runs daily. You can see updated 12 hours ago. Just because it updates daily doesn't mean there's always data updates because the government doesn't run every day. But yeah, we had our most recent update at the federal level 2 days ago, and you can see the data is right here. One thing I like showing off is everybody's favorite bill. Where are you? HR1. Hold on. There it is. HR1. This is good old big beautiful bill. You know, everybody's favorite bill. So yeah, we have the bills here. We have not only the bill data here, but we also have we're going to talk about this. Tamara's going to talk about this more later, but we have these files we created called logs that really are an append-only log that describe what exactly happened with this bill in a successive order. And yeah, that's kind of what all these data sets are. These are all, again, Git repos, so you can just straight up, you don't even have to use Govbot. You can just come in here and download a zip and just use it directly. And with the amount of AI tools nowadays, they can just like look at this data set and figure out how to do whatever they want with it. And yeah, as you can see over here, we are at Wisconsin, so we should be. So I realize this may not be going in directly alphabetical order, but close. I think we're close. Hold on. There it is, and we're done. And so, in the time that I described how this thing works, we have now downloaded the entirety of all 50 states, state-based legislators and federal legislators directly onto my computer in a very efficient / fast way, like within about a minute or two. And yeah, that's like part one of the demo. This was not possible before this demo. Like this is something that we have been working on. We have struggled with this since 2022. Like getting the data, we have tried to get the data from a company called Legiscan. A lot of civic activists try to get it from Legiscan, and their API is just not very friendly to doing the kind of work that we want to do. Google Civic Information API, which literally shut down after a certain someone became president. And so, yeah, that was kind of why we decided, hey, there should be a better way for us to get this data. You can see that here. The next piece is, well, what can you do with this data? So one of the things I want to show is what Edwin was talking about earlier, which is there's this thing called DuckDB, and it's just really good at like looking at JSON files and turning it into a SQL database. So we use that to then open up you can see a full-on SQL Explorer. If you do any sort of data analytics, this UI will be somewhat familiar to you. If you do Jupyter Notebook or anything like that, yeah, you can do the whole select bills thing here. And you can see in here we have 138,000 rows of legislative data right here, right now. And then the final piece that I will show is the demo for how we do tagging. So I'll talk more about how the tagging works later, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run the tagging. But actually, before I run the tagging, I'm going to show you what we do under the hood. So I'm going to run this is the core of everything we do, which is called Govbot logs. I'm going to run it only for a second. Very, very techy for those. I'm in Shy Hacknet. I think a lot of y'all will be more tech focused, but each line over here is a JSON line with a data update, and it comes out as a JSON stream. This kind of data stream is very popular in data engineering pipelines. For those of y'all that work with data lakes or some like really big database systems, this will be familiar to you. What's really cool about this is now you can pipe this into anything you want. Like we have Govbot logs, but it doesn't have to be with just Govbot. I can pipe this into a completely different tool made by not by us. There's this thing called YAML. There's a tool that can make things look pretty in YAML. I'm gonna pipe it through that, and now you can see it is coming out in YAML. And what's really cool is that we've tried this with so many random tools on the internet, and our tool just like naturally works with so many of the data processing tools already, and that's very useful, I think, to kind of make this a small modular tool that can work well with other tools. The piece, though, that is probably the most important is our ability to tag. So I'm going to run this real quick. Uh, and I will actually also output it as JSON just to prettify it. But it's called Govbot tag, and it will now run. And as you can see, this is now running and finding tags for specifically in this scenario. I have a config to look for LGBTQ specific legislation, and it's going through. This is not hitting ChatGPT, Anthropic. It's not hitting any external server. If we weren't on a live stream, I could straight up go offline and it would still keep working. If you were in person, you would hear that my computer is currently not spinning up. But it's going very fast, going through all 150,000 rows. And you can see it's done. And that's very important for later because for I think a lot of AI tools that are currently out there, they're designed to be worked with kind of the big AI tools out there, but that's going to cost money. And for activists and citizens, like that's not a real way to do it. In addition, we want to be able to access and track thousands or millions of lines potentially in the future. This is the first time I've ever seen any tagging system work this well, like offline. So I'm very excited that this worked. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are right now with how Govbot generally works. Well, how can you actually use this data? We made some quick demos to kind of show things that are possible. So I made my own little, I called it my little Govbot. And this is literally my personal website. And it's running off of I'll get there in a second, but it's my personal website. And I made a little Govbot to make legislation for specific topics that I care about. And I even made it where I can subscribe to it via RSS. And this is how I'm going to be personally using this to keep track of issues that I really care about across different states. And the way that this is running, and going back to what we were talking about earlier, like why run this AI tagging thing, and even the cloning, the ability to download all this data the way we do it and so efficiently. Well, we're actually running all of this on a free GitHub action. So for those of y'all that don't know, a GitHub action is a little runner. It's a little compute, like a little. You get some time on Microsoft's ecosystem to just run anything you want. And usually people use it for building websites and building other things. But we kind of hijack this to run data processing, and we're able to use their entire free stack to download all of these data sets, data catalogs, and then do all of this data processing and tagging directly in this GitHub action. And the whole thing took 3 minutes and 36 seconds, even though it's on the freest thing. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this, we tried this last year, it did not work. I've tried this so many years, like did not work. So it is so nice to know that like we can go to sleep and wake up in a year and this will still work because there is no external dependencies. So yeah, that's pretty much the demo for now. Gotta find this. There we are. Cool. In the long run, our goal is to really create some social media bots. There is a growing population of, especially blue sky bots that are issue based. There's, for example, currently an LGBTQ bot that's job is to find case law around gay rights issues and kind of surface those. There are different organizations that are doing that for their individual cases. There's one, in fact, one that we're currently talking to. Where they specifically follow and track LGBTQ specific legislation. Their bot on Blue Sky stopped working like 6 to 8 months ago. We were hoping that the framework that we've created will allow them to very quickly spin that back up, start running it, and really any issue that any activist organization cares about, they can spin it up with our frameworks very quickly and our tooling. So now we will jump into the technical details. So this is going to get very technical. I'm not sure everybody who's in the crowd right now, but yeah, we're going to get kind of deep under into the engine. But it's all good stuff. So yeah, please follow along. I'll hand it off to Tamara.
Hi, I'm Tamara. So I'm going to go into how we get that data a little bit. But first, I want to talk about, we created a proposal today for this? Okay, democratizing government data. And so the first place to start is to understand kind of what we're trying to do here and what does it mean to democratize the data, right? So we're not talking about any political action at all. Here we're talking about access. So the idea behind this is that we're creating something that has a low bar of entry. A lot of people are familiar with Git, or if they're not, it's not hard to learn how to use GitHub. And this is just all about referring who has access to the public records, who can inspect them, and who can reuse them, and who has distributive power. And it's just basically to reduce gatekeeping. And you don't have to pay for API keys. You don't have to like download a big SQL dump. We'll talk about that a little bit. But that's was basically our goal. And so we were trying to figure out what is the best way to take this information and provide it to people, because the government does not do that. It might be intentional that this information's hard to get, right? So here we are. Okay, so the problem here, legislative data, it's commonly distributed through APIs or large database dumps, right? This doesn't work. This doesn't work really well when you're trying to look at historical analysis, and if you're trying to track things that are happening over time, right? Another problem with this is that also a lot of people use the API. So one of the LGBTQ bot that Sartaj was talking about before, that's what happened with them. They lost access to their API, right? So a lot of Civic data, the information comes through something called an API, if you don't know what that is, but it's just a way that you give information away. And the problem is some of these APIs, they're created, but they're created through people like us that are doing it, on the side. And a lot of these times the APIs will just break, or they don't use, or they just something, because a lot of tools, they are dependent on other tools, and the other tool might change and then the whole thing breaks and there's no one to fix it, right? So this is a part of the problem, a big part of the problem. Okay, so why does it matter that we're doing this? A lot of this has to do with infrastructure. It is about creating an infrastructure that anybody that can use, that is a source of truth. We aren't giving any opinion on this. We are only creating a system that everybody has access to, and then they can take that information and use it for whatever kind of analysis that they want. But this original source of truth will always be available, and it will be the truth, right? And anyone can verify it, right? And it's a shared source of truth without any interpretation baked in. So when we talk about tracking data over time, there's two ways that are really common to do it. It's called a state-based system, and then you have an append-only log. So when you think about your database, that is generally what you think about with a state-based system, right? You have, like you go to Airbnb and you put in like you want a place at this place, 3 bedrooms, bathrooms, right? And then you click and it goes off somewhere, and then they give you that information back, right? That's what you traditionally think of as a database, right? But the problem with this is that it overwrites old data, right? So like say, for example, that you put, that this house had a jacuzzi, and then they took the jacuzzi away, and then now it only shows that it doesn't have a jacuzzi, and it was never, that data is gone that it used to, right? And so that's what the state-based system is. It talks about what the truth is right now, okay? With the append-only log, it keeps the full history, right? So you have your status A, and then it changes to B, and it changes to C. And so with your append-only log, you can recreate the state by looking at the history. But it keeps track of everything that has happened, right? And this is really important that we track it this way, because the legislation is moving through. It goes through the House, it goes through Congress, it goes, goes back and forth, and it goes to this committee, and it goes there. So it's really important. Most of what we're tracking is actually the movement, right? Because a law only passes once, once it's signed by the president or whomever, right? So most of what we are tracking is just logging the events here. Okay, so Why did we use Git? Why are we building it? So Git itself actually is a event source log, or it's, like the append only log, sorry. And it will keep track of it keeps track of history. You can go back and you can look at things. And that, hold on, I have notes here. I'll look at my notes, right? And so we're using Git, it's more as an infrastructure because it is free. There are free tiers, and because it is easily accessible to everybody, and it has like cheap branching, meaning that anybody wants access to it, you can go clone it, right? You will not change the original source. You just take the data and take it to the side and do what you want with it. The original data will not be changed, but you don't need permission to take that data, right? And so that's why we're using Git. And also, I think we need to mention that the data that we have is aligned with OpenState's data and then the OpenCivic data schemas. Okay, so what we're building is something that is going to add on to the systems that are already in place. This is not at all meant to replace them. It's an extension of what already exists from the really hard work that OpenCivic data has done in OpenStates. So if you remember, Sartaj showed you earlier the log files, like when he pulled up the HR1, the big, beautiful bill, and it had all those log files. So what happens is that every time we download the data every day, and then when we get the data, it gives us everything, right? So what we do is we go through in the bills and we look at all the different actions that have taken, right? And we compare it to what's in the past, but we create a log file for every single action. Like every time it moves through committees, every time it approves or it fails a vote or whatever happens all along the way, every time the day after we get that information, it's going to create a log file for that event. Okay. And then what you can do is you can use a service like the DuckDB, and it will take all those log files and it will create a SQL database for you. And then you can take that SQL database and use it and create your tag searches or whatever you want to do. So this is like one example of what you can do with it. But honestly, by creating these log files where it's an individual action for everything that happens, it makes it really easy to go in and find out what's happening, and you can scan it by date, by state, look for, the tags. Okay, the OCD model. Okay, so the OCD, Open Civic Data, is a consortium of people, and they have already a lot of suggested rules, and a lot of people go by these to keep track of legislative data. And so we've actually made a proposal to them. Like I said before, we're adding on to what they already have. And I put this all in. And I did a pull request. I don't know. I'm proud of this. Anyways, this is a lot of work. So we actually put in a pull request today into the Open Civic Data to introduce this optional file-based system representation. Okay. Okay, so the last thing here, technical challenges and triumphs. Okay, for me, this was a challenge because I had to learn Python, and also I had not worked a lot with AI, and I really needed to learn how to like wrangle AI with this because I don't have all day to work on it, right? It's something that we're doing in the evening, on the weekends, and so the fastest way to do it, and so that was one of the biggest challenges for me. And then also, I mean, there was some other technical challenges here, like how to do the last scene. But really, I think the thing that I've learned the most is that the projects always evolve over time, right? So it's like everybody, if you spend a whole lot of time in the beginning planning on what the end is going to look like, it's super helpful, but it doesn't really happen because everything evolves. And I've loved working on this project. I've spent a lot of time on it, and with the team, it's been amazing. Here's Sartaj.
Thank you, Tamara. Oh. Yeah, and I would have to say that like in this project, the hardest piece by far is what Tamara has worked on for the last 9 months. Like this is again, it's not something that we as activists should be doing. Like this government should be doing this for us, but the fact that this data is fully inaccessible Uh, I'm not sure if it's fully by design, but I can't help but think that like there's no incentive for politicians for us to track them. So I'm very happy with at least this part of the work. Like if there's nothing that comes out of this entire project, it is the fact that now all legislative data is as easy as a Git clone or a zip download. So now I'm gonna jump into local AI tagging. For those of y'all that like doing AI engineering, strap in, but I'll walk y'all through some stuff. For those of y'all that do AI engineering, you're probably used to like, oh, how do I, send something to a prompt that then talks to another prompt, and you end up in a kind of a cycle of prompts or whatever that can end up hitting sub prompts. We did none of that here. We decided that doing any sort of AI engineering, like if I don't know if y'all know, but with Claude Code, Anthropic made $1 billion in the last, I think, few months from people. I know literally at my day job right now, the sheer amount of money that we're spending hitting these AI APIs, and we don't hear them, we don't see them, but we know they're boiling our ocean, and so they're not necessarily, I think, one, like even from a technical standpoint, not necessarily conducive for hitting potentially millions and millions of lines, and two, it's not like, especially as an activist, and with the way that the amount that governments nowadays are saying that they're going to track us, they're going to punish us for thinking a certain way. For me, it was very imperative that this whole thing could work fully offline, fully privately, and hopefully on machines that are not that powerful. So then, even those that don't have a strong or powerful computer, or maybe no computer at all, like the GitHub Actions, can do some easy AI-based analysis of government to keep them honest. So the way that we do this is we instead of using one model, we use two models. So part one is to use a smart LLM. So I'm gonna actually go a little off script here because I forgot to put it in, but I'm gonna show. Here is the configuration for how we're currently tracking LGBTQ tags. I'm gonna increase the screen a little bit. Get rid of Mr. AI bot on the right here. There we go. So you can see for this tag LGBTQ, we have this thing called description. We have this thing called include keywords, exclude keywords, examples, and negative examples. So what this is actually doing, what we're doing here is I'm using, in this case, a cursor to fill out, hey, what are ways to describe this specific topic in a way that the downstream AI, which is actually just doing what's called embeddings. For those of y'all that do AI engineering, it's turning sentences into a bunch of numbers and then doing comparisons on the number. It's a bunch of vector math. I don't want to get too deep into that, but the general idea is you're doing similarities. Like, hey, how similar is one sentence to another? So we go through all the sentences and all the bills, and we try to find how similar are those sentences to potentially the sentences in here, or how if they have some sort of keyword, boost the score. We also in making this, I realized that there are things that are like top. For example, the sentences around women's rights and gay rights are actually semantically similar from a vector perspective. So it's good to add negative examples. So I added words to exclude, like if it's about specifically again in this scenario about women's rights. Even trans rights is a very important thing. But the word it ends up conflicting with things like literally transit, transport, stuff like that. So added those in here. Added specific examples of like, hey, sentences like this could be in there. Let's find those sentences, and then negative examples. What are if these sentences are in there, reduce the score. So using again the smart AI to make this config, and then the smaller AI, which actually I can even show you down on the left here inside of our little Govbot folder, which I forgot to show this earlier, but here is like literally locally all of the legislation directly in this folder. So the same way, if you're used to doing Python development, you have a requirements.txt and you're downloading all your packages. If you're JavaScript developer, you have node modules. We kind of copied that concept and made data catalog repos here that you can see. But yeah, underneath here you can see this thing called model.onyx, and that this is the AI model that is running locally to go through all this stuff and run the thing. So yeah, First part is to do the tag authoring, and we're expecting developers and people that are tag authors, really activists, to decide what are ways, what are words, what are terms, what are sentences, what are negative sentences that make sense for trying to track whatever you care to track. And again, the advantage is once you can figure that out, you can run on millions and millions of lines. Uh, and yeah, from there you can just kind of keep running it. And because the model is so small, it ran on my computer. It ran on a what's it called, a GitHub Action. We haven't done this test because but I'm pretty sure this could run on a Raspberry Pi also. To give you like how efficient the system is. Uh, Before we go to what's next for the project, actually, yeah, we'll hop over. But let me just before we hop on to the next, what's next for the project, I do want to say just like what's happened in the last year of the project is we discovered that the data problem itself is such a big problem that no matter what you care about, what topic or issue that you care about, it is so hard to do any of those things because it's so hard to get that data. So all we've done in the last year is just make tooling with our audience being activists like yourself, hacktivists really, in the Shy Hacknet community and beyond, like to start using this tooling to figure out what is the thing that you want to track. For the people that are on this call that are, have seen our previous project, Windy Civvy, we could rebuild windycivvy.com with this tooling. We don't intend to do that. We intend to continue to make this a decentralized system. Yeah, see where that takes us. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Edwin for what's next for the project.
Do some maneuvering there. We have a very interesting like YouTuber video essay set up over here for those of you all curious. But yeah, we have a couple of things that are sort of near and long-term goals for the project. The most important thing is obviously building relationships with activists and journalists. The LGBTQ legislative alerts account was mentioned. We're in touch with them. Like as was mentioned, like trying to sort of revive that bot using this stack. Also working on creating and designing customizable tagging templates. So y'all saw the YAML file. Y'all saw how it was able to be edited, but just even giving examples of what the templates could look like, I think would be really helpful to allow people to sort of customize how they want to look at buckets of legislation. Incorporating additional like non-legislative documents like executive orders, which have been very important this year for reasons, as well as judicial opinions, which have also been very important in recent years. That stuff so far isn't in the database, but it would add a lot of context to the full scope of like what's happening on this topic legislatively and judicially and executive branch in the U.S. Right? Exploring additional use cases, we've talked about doing or working on some sort of automated content pipeline, and I think sort of building that sort of infrastructure for folks who are interested in that would be really useful, especially with the mass of data. For those of y'all who have explored the Blue Sky bot, that was linked, that's linked in the Markdown file, something to that effect. But if folks want to sort of add a generative content output that isn't just text, right? And then adding this is a sort of longer term vision that sort of gets to a root some crucial questions that we've had, but adding data on donations for analysis of the difference between legislative priorities and campaign promises. So we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole in terms of trying to scrape information from campaign like priority pages. That was a little bit difficult, but ideally we would want to see like when you're voting for a representative, how much are they representing what they actually claim and how much of it is maybe being influenced by their donations. So a lot of factors there. But yeah, there's a lot in store for folks who want to join the project or are interested. Definitely hit us up because there'll be all this fun stuff to work on and more. I love that sound effect. Special thanks to all the following contributors. So Sartaj, Tamara, and my name are on there, but also there are some folks who are in our audience, some folks who may be online. But yeah, it's been a lot of people contributing since the start of the project in 2022. I only came on over the last year. It's been really, really great seeing it grow over time. And as Sartaj have mentioned, the A point to where we are now has been super fascinating. So you can be on this list too if you want to contribute. So pull up. And then thank you. So thank you to Hack Night, obviously, for hosting us, for being the place where we have met over the last several years, for allowing all these connections. Thank you to Open States for providing the data. And thank you for the open civic data community for sort of giving us the standards for which to form the data catalog. Yeah, we are really dedicated to, as labeled here, building government accountability tools accessible to all. So hopefully you'll join us in that mission. And we do have some time for questions. There's some frequently asked questions in the Markdown file for those of y'all who have been looking at that, but we're willing to take, I saw a couple in the chat. Yeah, excited to take your questions.
But also, I want to real quickly thank all the people that are here today. These are all old, yes, we're all some of the old contributors that we've had over the years. Oh, there you are. There's Zach. There you are. Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to like this is truly a Shy Hack Night project. From the beginning, it kind of has been, and like it's so beautiful that Chicago has made such a cool community. So I just wanted to kind of call that out.
This is awesome. Congratulations. And it's been very cool to see your progress and how y'all have evolved. We have some questions trickling in the chat, but to kick it off, I guess I'm curious if there are, other any people or organizations you've reached out to about Govbot, like elder people or legislators, to amplify what you've been working on.
Yeah, so there's a Blue Sky bot that was built in collaboration with that representative, and then there was outreach, as mentioned, with the person running the LGBTQ issues bot. But you can expand on that.
Yeah, there's a the State Senator Hanwin. Yeah. The person or the organization that we're most focused on right now is, shoot, I forgot their name. But what they do is they do LGBTQ legislation tracking, and they have the Legi alerts. That's the name of them. And they have been doing. We've been in direct correspondence with their founder about this project, kind of since the beginning, and they've been very excited about using our tooling because their bot stopped working like 5 or 6 months ago, because they were actually, I think, using Scan is the name of the project underneath, and their API key broke or something. But yeah, they're very excited to use it. There are some other issue-based activists that we really want to focus on for right now. In terms of how we deal with politicians, I know like in the past, this project has dealt directly with politicians. We just got this data working off the ground, and there are some very cool like playground experiments where we're working directly with tracking politicians as humans. But the art of tracking politicians as humans is not simple because believe it or not, there's no like ID for a politician, so it's not easy to know. Like I love using Mitt Romney as an example. Mitt Romney was both the governor of Utah or Massachusetts and senator from Utah. And so like how those names can be the same person is like an entire class of problem in and of itself. So it is something personally that I would like to get to because that is what drives me the most is I want to track my politicians. But at least for like the very near future, we want to help some of these activist organizations that just want to, there's so much legislation like state, local, federal across issues that so many people care about that are just changing very quickly right now, and just like giving them what we have today. I think we can very quickly set up some tooling for them to get stuff off the ground.
That's awesome. There's a question in the chat earlier about a download that you were able to do in the demo portion. And I think, yeah, someone asked, is that download coming from the Git repo or is that like a local thing from DuckDB that you set up?
So that download is actually coming from their Git repos. It's 50, I think we have a total of 56, although some we're still working out some kinks. Are you pulling that up? Yeah, so we have he's gonna show you the GitHub repos. Are you gonna pull up the GitHub repo? Okay. Yeah, so it's just downloading. So what happens every night is that we have one job, one action that goes and uses the open state scraper, and it pulls down all of the data from all of the jurisdictions, and we get that data. And then we have another action that gets triggered once we have the scraped data, and it takes that data and it formats it here. And so, and you can scroll down on the summary. Oh, so here, so yeah, so then it will go through and it will format it. It checks it to see if we already have the data, because like I said, we get the same, we get it all every night. And it will go through, we like have the timestamps here. Anyways, we skip some files and we go down. But this is what you're downloading essentially from the repo. So if you go here to the summary, actually, yeah, if you go to the over here at the very, very top. So if you go to the summary here and then you scroll down, you have to, here we go. Oh yeah, because there was no new here, right? So it says bill saved, vote event saved. What will happen is, even though we pulled in all that information again, there was no new data that came in, right? And so it will give that summary to you. Yeah, I don't know. They're not. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, those are the orphan bills. So we have some bills that come across that do not have the information. So we're putting them, that is coming up. We have to do some error processing later. But anyways, when you download it, that is what's happening. So show the whole repo like this here, open states files. So, and then repos. Yeah. So if you go into here, you'll see there's 55 repositories in here. That's what we have working right now. This is where you're getting the data from, right? So you're going in here and you're just pulling. If you remember what he showed you where the log files are, that is what you are downloading. And yeah. And then we actually are running another part of it right now, a text extraction, but that still has some work to do. But we do have another repo that will actually then take this data and it will go to the link where the actual text of the bill is, and it will download that as well as a markdown file, I think, or text file, because that's the easiest. But that is complicated because most states have their bills actually in PDF form, right? So it's just like a PDF. So it's possible now because of AI to look at it, but one of the biggest problems that we're having is actually crossing it out, right? So like this is what I learned. Most bills are just taking old laws and changing them. You're not usually like making a new law, right? So what they do is they take the PDF page of the existing law and then they actually literally write a line through it. Right. And then they put like what is updated on that. And that's just a really hard process to automate. Right. So that actually, yes, it's where the concept of amendment comes from, right? You're amending an existing law. And so we actually have another repo that is pulling down, but we don't trust that data yet. So we haven't even started it.
Got it.
Anything else?
Thank you for the explanation. Was it hard to get the action to run in 3 minutes? Like, did you do anything to optimize there?
Was it hard to get the action to run? So yeah, yeah. Funny. Yes and no. So the optimization is in doing processing ahead of time, and so the fact that Tamara has all these 56 repos already having the data formatted in a way that makes it very easy for like the data that is it's not shared right now, but the data that is as it is currently on each repo is extremely easy for the AI bot to literally just like look at a directory and just list everything, and everything is we have a folder called logs, and everything is just listed in date order, like so you can immediately sort by ascending or descending on date. And just literally use for those of y'all that use Unix, like ls to just like show everything very quickly. So that pre-processing is really where I would say the far majority of optimization came from. Yeah, that and the fact that we chose to use a categorization method that is like again I was showing you earlier, the way that it does the tagging. That way of doing tagging is not a 2022 ChatGPT thing. That's the way machine learning has been happening for 10, 15 years. We just forgot that we used to do it that way. And yeah, that's just like using those tools have been very helpful.
Got it. There's a question about dependencies in the chat. I know you mentioned earlier in the talk that Google shut down their Civic Information API earlier this year. Are like what are you relying on to make this project run? Like I think there's OpenState Scraper. And are you thinking about any like dependencies, like that being shut down or right? Like, yeah, are you worried about that in any way?
Great question. Yeah, what's funny is Open States. So we didn't make the scrapers for each state. Open States did the company, which is owned by Plural Insight or something, Pluralsight, something like that. And so that is our only real dependency. So if they ever stop running, our scrapers will downstream stop running. Luckily, outside of them, we actually have no other dependencies. We're not dependent on ChatGPT. We're not dependent on even we're not even dependent on GitHub Actions, to be honest, because like the way that this thing runs, it can just run outside of GitHub Actions. Like if GitHub one day just says this is not allowed anymore, we can just migrate, I think, pretty quickly and easily. But yeah, if OpenStates changes, which would suck, that would be definitely a thing. We actually want to get in contact with OpenStates and show them kind of what we've made. I think some of these repos that we made, honestly, would be great to talk to them to see if they want to own them because they've done most of the work there. They've also, I think they got bought like 2 weeks ago on December 1st by a company based out of Chicago, surprisingly. And so, yeah, I mean, there's always a risk there. We are a Shy Hack Night breakout. We would not have the manpower or the people power to like scrape all 50 states. So hopefully they can stay up.
Gotcha. There's a question about accessibility. How are you building accessibility tools into your project or just like accessibility in general? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, that's a accessibility is something that I care about a lot. Accessibility from a front end perspective, like from an end user perspective. Right now, we haven't made really any end user projects. Like we don't have Blue Sky bots out yet. We don't have other tools like that just yet, but we are going to have those very soon. We're hoping that, by having, for example, Blue Sky bots, Blue Sky as an app itself is a very accessible app. So for those that are have different kinds of accessible needs, they can kind of use Blue Sky as it is. When I think about accessibility, it's not just a like how do you like how can people of different kinds of capabilities be able to see the data, but it's also just like accessible to us. Like it is so hard to literally look at the data even as people that are like good at looking at data, and like that is really what we focus on from a like data accessibility standpoint. In the long run, and again, these are tools for developers. How they manifest it for different kinds of communities will be mostly up to them. But we are hoping that again, by making Blue Sky one of our main endpoints, that's like a naturally accessible place.
Cool.
Because we're not making images full of text, and those are not accessible.
Yeah, right, right. So we are coming towards the end of our time here. I'd love to ask kind of a question on a closing note. And I'd love to hear from all the presenters if you want to share. What has been the most rewarding part of working on this project?
Yeah, so it's been really rewarding, especially when I came in like last year to see like how far it's come, especially in terms of the development of like the data catalog. I mentioned it this earlier, but I was like nerd happy when the SQL interface was added in there because like again I love SQL, so I'm like this is such a fun data set to probably like explore and do analysis on, and that's something that did not exist last year, right? So just a really big leap in what's been made, which is really exciting.
I think for me, what has been the most rewarding is just watching the evolution of the project because it started off like we get these big huge SQL dumps. What are we gonna do, right? And it was like, okay, we'll try this, and it's been really interesting to me to see that we actually have gotten to where we are. That it has become such a accessible database. Like I didn't think in the beginning, I don't think I thought we were gonna make it here, right? I didn't know how, but he helped. Sartaj is really clever, and he taught me a lot. And I've learned a lot from this project. I've really enjoyed it. And but yeah, watching the evolution, I think, is what I've enjoyed.
Yeah, I got like two different angles. Like one, I'll just speak strictly personally of like being a creative person. Like the moment I saw all 50 data sets download, I there's a few times in my life as a creative where I'm like, that is so cool. Wow, I cannot believe we just did that. And to be the first person in the world to see something that is that cool that nobody else has seen, you only get a few times in your life as a creative that you get to experience that. We got to experience that twice, both with the data sets and with the AI tagging. That was just such a, like, again, like I don't need anybody else in the world to just enjoy those moments, and I really enjoy those moments. From a kind of team perspective, I'm currently just looking at a room full of people that have worked on this project over the years. Behind the camera right now is Andy, and he started on working on Windy Civvy like a year or two ago, and worked on making the mobile app. And now he's a bona fide mobile app developer, working as a full time mobile app developer. Zach over here in the corner helped so much with this project a year or two ago. And he started then moving on to the Bay Area, working for helping nonprofit companies. Tamara, who really wanted to like get into this data, is now somebody that can challenge me day to day on some serious data like philosophy. And like I think that anybody that like is lucky enough to work with Tamara is going to be, again, deserves to be so lucky to work with her. She is such a brilliant person. From like day one, I saw how good she was at handling errors. For those that do engineering, handling errors is something that is not a like easy thing, and she did that from the beginning. And now she can talk about append only logs and event source databases and all kinds of very like philosophical things. So seeing people grow throughout this project, whether it's like getting careers or just getting better, has been another piece. The final piece that I haven't felt yet, and I would love to feel one day, is this project actually making an impact on these activists. So that's hopefully what's coming up next.
Thank you so much. Final note, if anyone's watching this online, how can they reach out if they have any other questions or if they want to get involved?
Yes. If you have not joined the Shy Hack Night Slack yet, I would do that. And then we are the Govbot channel. So again, there'll be some really fun updates happening. You can also look at our repo. Again, I linked one of the parts of the repo a little bit earlier, but yeah, like reach out to us if you want to help sort of make those next parts of the project a reality. We have been a small team of three, and I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity to really leapfrog with that.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, y'all. It was great hearing your presentation.
I actually do have one minor question, but before we end,
Oh yeah.
did anyone like follow along and download the Govbot repo themselves? Audience. Dun dun dun. Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. But yeah, if you have not tried it, yeah, please do. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks. Cool. Thank you so much for presenting.
Bye.